Welcome to the show today. Trump has come out with a big news press conference and he's made some big statements. One of the biggest ones that he made is that he talked about Biden selling the border wall basically for nothing and says that this is almost a criminal act and he will seek a restraining order looking to stop Biden from continuing to hurt the United States and its people. This is one of the biggest things and statement that we've heard since Trump is about to be president and Biden's been doing these stupid things. Also, we have it where Trump has vowed to release all documents pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein, JFK, RFK, MLK, and September 11th. We have a lot more details to share with you in just a moment, but guys, this is some big news of what we're about to see. Never before have we seen a president who's coming out with a dream team like he has, but ready to expose everything. But now that Trump and Mike Johnson have warned Joe Biden to halt the sale of the border wall, stating that this is a criminal act, they're now seeking the restraining order, but also they're seeking to restrain Biden from doing any more pardons. They're seeking for Biden to not be able to spend any more money or have any way to spend the money, because if he's doing these things, they're saying he's not in his best cognitive ability to make the best decisions for the United States, and this act proves it. We also have it where Trump is now going to sue pollsters and more news outlets such as CBS and 60 Minutes. He just won the $15 million lawsuit from ABC, but all this is for the attempted election interference that they, especially the Iowa pollster, did at the last minute that showed a poll that Kamala Harris was going to win the state of Iowa, when in fact Trump won it by 12 points. He said this is a clear violation of our free and fair elections and they need to be held accountable. We also have more additional information on the January 6th protest. The mainstream media that pushed all the false narratives saying it was an insurrection, there's pushing more evidence where the guards are coming out, leaked information that they allowed the protesters to come in free, just waving their arms and allowing them without no resistance whatsoever. The FBI was involved, informants were involved, and they were used to escalate the tension in the crowds. This is insane. On top of that, we have now the count to date. Biden has pardoned over 8,000 people. That's more than the last 20 presidents combined. Trump only pardoned 297 people and Obama 1,927. And Biden is now planning to pardon even more people, including many more of his family members, including Jim Biden. This is literally making a lot of the Democrats uneasy because they're saying, even the Democrats are saying this was never the intention of the pardon system. So Trump has come out today making all these big statements. We have all the evidence, all the receipts to show you guys. Today is going to be an insane show. You're going to love it. Just want to say thank you to everybody that's watching. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button so I can serve you every day with the top news. And if you don't mind, click the thumbs up like button. It really does help to grow the channel, guys. And thank you so much to all of our members of the channel who's watching with us today. Guys, we appreciate you so much and just couldn't do this without you. If you want to be a member, the link is in the description to join. And thank you to everybody that gives a super chat donation. We're so grateful for your support and our giving back and our charity donations that we do live on channel, which we'll be doing in about a week. So we got a ton of breaking news to get into today, guys. I'm telling you, you are going to love what you're about to see. Check it out.
But now we ordered an additional 200 miles of wall. It's very expensive. And now it's about double the price of what it would have been 6 years ago. And the administration is trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, knowing that we're getting ready to put it up. And what they're doing is really an act. It's almost a criminal act. They know we're going to use it, and if we don't have it, we're going to have to rebuild it, and it'll cost double what it cost years ago, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars, because you're talking about a lot of wall. I built much more than I said I was going to build, but then after it was built, I said, you know, we can do some more because it's sort of like water, people flow through, and that will pretty much really take care of it. And what happened is they just As you see, they're trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar. And that's really, that has nothing to do with a smooth transition. That has to do with people really trying to stop our nation. And all it means really is that we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars more, not even talking about the time. Time would be pretty long, but we'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars more on building the same wall that we already have. And people have already come back to us that have deals at 5 cents and 4 cents, and one guy at 3 cents on the dollar, and they offered to sell it back to us at more money than it cost us to build substantially. Can you believe it? So they make a deal with the United States to buy it for pennies, and then they call us and they say, do you want to buy it back? We'll sell it back to you for hundreds of dollars a foot. Hundreds of dollars, from pennies to hundreds of dollars a foot.
Wow. That's
And we
messed
can't
up.
let this take place. Now, we're going to go. I spoke with the Attorney General of Texas. I spoke to the senators of Texas. I spoke to a lot of people, and hopefully they'll be able to stop. We're going to be, having a restraining order. But just think about how ridiculous it is. And this is just people that don't want this country to succeed. And this has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. This has to do with common sense. We won on common sense, and this is maybe one of the most egregious examples I've seen. So the people that are buying it or trying to buy it are trying to make a deal with us to sell it back at hundreds of times more than we paid. And this is all because the Democrats. So I'm asking today Joe Biden to please stop selling the wall. We're going to use that to create a strong barrier.
Yes.
And it worked. That's why our numbers were so good. It really worked, and it worked well. And it's very expensive to do. And I'm asking Joe Biden to stop his people from giving it away. It's something that people can't even believe is happening. So hopefully Joe will be able to stop it.
Guys, I'm telling you, it's getting really serious with this. Trump says that he's speaking with the Texas Attorney General. They're seeking a restraining order for Biden to stop this because, again, there's no reason for Biden to be doing this and just to essentially spite the American people. And he has all the authority to stop this. And yet now they're seeking a restraining order. Now they're seeking for that this could be criminally charged on Biden and the Biden administration for doing this whenever we have so many things that have happened. And again, there's just a lot of bad stuff that's happening, and we cannot continue the bad stuff. And I want to say our prayer goes out to the school shooting that just happened. Guys, it breaks my dang heart when I hear this stuff. And we gotta protect our families. We gotta protect our kids. And a border is a good way to do that. But we gotta minimize the amount of bad things that could happen as much as possible. But now that Trump is really making the statement, something's got to stop. Biden cannot continue operating like he is because it's not good. Especially, guys, with what I'm about to show you too. We got new evidence with the January 6th protest. Guys, the FBI, the administration, there was a lot of things that were messed up. They were colluding against Trump to make everything seem worse, but also too, they put over 1,500 people in jail. Listen to this.
In the crowd, Stewart, pay attention, dumbass. I have pictures. There were people in the crowd.
Excuse me.
So the IG report admits, however, that there were at least FBI assets. This is where I did an interview with Julie Kelly on Thursday on the radio show. And I want to be clear, don't get caught up in the euphemisms game, okay? FBI assets and agents are not the same thing. Michael could be working for the FBI as a paid source, a confidential human source. Doesn't mean he's an FBI agent. Agents are actual GS 1811 gun-carrying agents who are working in an undercover capacity, like a Donnie Brasco, the Joe Pistone guy, okay? That was an agent. So the FBI is trying to lose people, but I'm telling you, both were in the crowd, agents and assets. The report now admits forever, however, that there were FBI sources in the crowd. Town Hall put up a great tweet, and they wonder why legacy media is dying. This is why people like Stuart Thompson, nobody's going to pay attention to them anymore. Here's what the FBI told you. The FBI did not send undercover operatives to join the June 6th attack, Watchdog says. That is not what the report says. The report says there were FBI assets in the crowd. Reuters, here, and Politico too. FBI didn't deploy undercover agents on January 6th. Watchdog finds undercutting conspiracy. It did no such thing. It did no such thing. I'm telling you, they were there in the crowd. Here they were. Probe finds no evidence. Feds were involved in inciting January 6th. They found a ton of evidence. There were 3 FBI assets in the crowd. There were actually, 26? 3 of them that went into the Capitol. Here's how CNN reports on it. No undercover FBI agents were at the January 6th U.S. Capitol riot. I'm telling you, this story is bull. You are ahead of it. It's absolute bullshit. I'm telling you right now, they are lying to you. Now, I want you to watch this. This video from Kash Patel is really important. Kash is going to be the incoming FBI director if the confirmation process continues to go smoothly, which, knock on wood, so far has. I'm going to get presumptuous, but here's the interesting part about this. This is what people like Stuart Thompson and New York Times will never cover. Now that we know there were 20-plus FBI assets in the crowd, some there with the permission of the FBI, that's in the report. I'm telling you there were agents in the crowd, period. The report's bull. I'm telling you for a fact. These assets take a while to cultivate. They had to be working on this for a long time. Again, I'm giving you an honest take on January 6th. No one else is. What the hell were they doing, these assets that the FBI knew were in the crowd on January 6th? What was their role there? They had to have a job. Yep. The FBI positioned them there for a reason. But the report is oddly kind of opaque on that. Were they there to incite a riot? Listen to Kash Patel here on Tim Pool saying exactly this, that this takes a while to cultivate because this story isn't adding up. Check this out.
What you need to show is whether or not the FBI and government agents were using undercover operatives and informants on the day of January 6th, because if you can show that, you know they've been out. Hang on. But the paperwork shows having run informants, that's a 6-month buildup. Minimum. Right. Minimum. It's not like they just dropped them into the Proud Boys and said, hey, go, don't disrupt, please. So once you prove that, then you defeat the insurrection narrative with the FBI's own documentation. Forget what the videotape showed.
Wow.
Yes, the FBI's got documents, folks. When you develop and cultivate an informant, you typically have to pay them. I did this federal agent work for a decade plus. There's paperwork generated. There's debriefing paperwork generated. What exactly were the informant's mission on January 6th? Why doesn't Stuart Thompson or anyone else seem even a little bit interested in this story? I promise you, if it was a left-wing BLM riot or some COINTELPRO thing, these people be all over the story. I got more on this, folks, because the legacy media, I'm telling you, man, these guys just don't get it. That's why they're so afraid of Kash going in there. Always measure the response. Measure the effectiveness of a policy or anything else by what? The show is about tactics. If your political opponents are not freaking out, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. They are terrified about Kash Patel. Politico is telling you right now, please don't put this guy in there because of what you just heard from Kash Patel in the Tim Pool interview, which is a great interview. I suggest you watch it. It's a little old, but it's not dated at all. There's a difference between old and dated. He understands how this entire process, having been an attorney for the government on the law enforcement and defense side, how cultivating informants works. What the hell? Here's the question. Everybody write it down. Folks in the chat, spread the word on this. This is the only question you should have right now after the IG report on Friday. What was the mission of the FBI informants in that crowd? What? What was the mission? Intelligence gathering? On who? It was a legal, it was a perfectly legal assembly. That's by the way, it's a constitutional right to assemble. What was their purpose in the crowd? You should worry about Kash Patel running the FBI. You should worry. No, you shouldn't worry. Politico's worried. This is their headline. The days of J. Edgar Hoover may be over, but Kash Patel's nomination is deeply worrisome all the same. Folks, rocks are going to get turned over. And there's a couple of things you need to know right now. You need to know what the hell the mission was of the informants in the crowd that day. And you also need to know the identity of who the January 6th bomber was. We spent a lot of time in that story. I've got a lot to get to today. So I'm going to pass on that today. But you know I'm staying on top of that too. That story is going to blow you.
Guys, I'm telling you, like the stuff that I have coming out for you, and I want to address this too. Because like somebody pointed out, the clickbait or whatever. No, this is not clickbait. If Trump is saying that this is essentially a criminal act and he's working with the Texas AG, criminal acts get criminal sentences, which get jail time, prison time. That's what this is all about. If they're seeking a restraining order, that's the first step. With the whole border wall, Biden selling it for pennies on the dollar. All this stuff that's happening is not, I mean, they give us clues as to what they're working on, but there's always stuff that's happening behind the scenes. Just like he said that he's talking with the Texas AG. Just like this right here. This is from the Leading Report, guys. This is a huge news outlet that Trump has vowed to release all the documents pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein, JFK, RFK, MLK, and September 11th. Right now, there's a lot of crap that's out there that we've been lied to by the mainstream media. I literally have a list for you over what they have lied throughout the entire past 8 years. Look at this. How many recent mainstream media hoaxes did you fall for? Starting off with the Russia collusion. That was by Hillary. The Inflation Reduction Act, which reduced inflation. It didn't. Even Biden came out and said it wasn't really about reducing inflation. It was actually the Green New Deal. The Trump called the neo-Nazis fine people. He never said that. Jesse Smollett, who hired people to come and beat them up and then said that it was hate against the LGBTQ crowd. Guys, all this list right here, I'm not going to go over all of them, but this right here is why people don't trust the mainstream. This is right here why things are changing and why YouTubers and podcasters are gaining such steam is because of this list right here. The other big thing is they're saying, oh, tariffs are going to make everything so expensive and they're going to destroy everything that we know about, and we're just going to people are going to lose out so much. No, Trump did tariffs back in 2017, 2018, and guess what? Prices didn't go up. But listen to this, because again, too, the statements that they're making today is what they're going to do on day one. Check it out.
Have liked for a long time. We're looking at it. I think we're looking at that along with a lot of us. Any questions for Howard, by the way? Commerce.
Sure, I'll ask one. Mr. Incoming Secretary, do you see another trade deal with China coming?
I think the president.
That's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Oh, it's easy for me. You're sitting next to me, so it's okay. No, the president has very clear agenda for tariffs. And I think reciprocity is something that is going to be a key topic for us. How you treat us is how you should expect to be treated.
Would you like to weigh in, sir, on
You
that?
said it so well, reciprocal. If they tax us, we tax them the same amount. They tax us, forget it just for a second about the word tax. They tax us, we tax them. And they tax us, almost in all cases, they're taxing us, and we haven't been taxing them.
Is that deal already underway? Is there a deal already underway with respect to that?
Let's just say this, we're gonna make great deals, and we have all the cards. And until I came along, don't forget, and Howard was going over the numbers with me last night, we took in $600 billion and more in taxes and tariffs from China. No other president took in 10 cents, not 10 cents, not 10 cents. And no, we're going to be doing things. We're going to be treating people very fairly. But the word reciprocal is important, because if somebody charges us, India, we don't have to talk about own. If India charges us 100%, do we charge them nothing for the same? You know, they send in a bicycle and we send them a bicycle. They charge us 100 and 200. India charges a lot. Brazil charges a lot. If they want to charge us, that's fine, but we're going to charge them the same thing.
Boom.
That's
Are you worried about
and you know what? The senators, some of them aren't necessarily business people. When I give that to them, they say, that sounds fair to me.
Are you concerned that tariffs might hurt the stock market rise that you have seen and the economy more broadly?
Make our country rich. Tariffs will make our country rich.
But won't they raise prices?
Properly used. Well, I didn't have any inflation, and I had massive tariffs on a lot of things. We put tariffs on steel. If I didn't put tariffs on steel, 50% and more, they were dumping steel in, China and others. I put tariffs on, and it stopped, and we took a fortune. We made a fortune on it. Tariffs, properly used, which we will do, and being reciprocal with other nations, but it'll make our country rich. Our country right now loses to everybody. Almost nobody do we have a surplus with. There are a couple of countries, and they're embarrassed by it, but almost nobody. And tariffs will make, I always said, to me, tariffs, the most beautiful word in the dictionary. It'll make our country rich. You go back and look at the 1890s, 1880s, McKinley, and you take a look at tariffs, that was when we were at our proportionately the richest.
Mr. President,
agree with the view from...
Did you get to a good spot?
Back on Ukraine, Mr. President. What should Zelensky, if anything, be prepared to give up to end this
He
war?
should be prepared to make a deal. That's all.
Do you have anything-
Got to be a deal. No, got to be a deal. Too many people being killed. That is a war that's hard. Too many people. Got to make a deal. And Putin has to make a deal.
What deal would
Do you think-
Putin has to make a deal, and Putin would have never gone in if I was president. If I was president, we wouldn't have had inflation. Our oil prices would have been lower. I had a good relationship with Putin. He would, despite the Russia hoax, which made it more difficult. If we had that election, if it were an honorable election, we wouldn't have had any of the problems that we're talking about right now. Putin would have never got in.
Will you make that deal to give up take office? Do you still? You said that you could make that deal before you take office. Do you still think you could make that deal?
I'm going to try.
Will you ask
Based on
Putin
your-
to give up Assad?
Well, I hadn't thought of it. I think we have to get on with our lives. We'll have to see what happens. But right now, Syria has a lot of, there's a lot of indefinites. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Syria. But I think Turkey is going to hold the key to Syria, actually. I don't think you've heard that from anybody else, but I've been pretty good at predicting. I want to thank you all, and we're going to make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Guys, I'm telling you, there's a lot that's at stake right now. Trump, the tariffs, everything that's happening, Canada, Mexico. Guys, this is actually breaking news. This came out like 45 minutes ago. This is insane. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was reportedly considering resignation as tensions build following the resignation of country's finance minister. Guys, this dude's nervous. Remember, Trump already started calling him governor. He already started saying that the state of Canada, not saying it was its own country. And now we're about to see, I feel like he's going to resign. But the reason that we're seeing this is because Trump is not playing around, guys. He is literally, this is breaking X right now. Trump demands Biden's halt border wall auction. I showed you this earlier. Trump says Biden's border wall sale is almost a criminal act, will seek a restraining order. There's a lot of things that Trump is stating right now with tariffs. He said that almost every single country, there's not a surplus for the United States, that we lose when it comes to trade, and he's about to put tariffs on a lot of people. But the biggest thing that it's not even being talked about right now, guys, listen up. If they don't pass a bill in the next 4 days, they're getting the bill today. But if they don't pass a new spending bill in the next 4 days, the government's going to shut down. Lots of things happen whenever that happens. But we have some details on where the bill is at and what's going on, because the government funding deadline is literally this Friday. Thank you so much, Mr. Norby, for the super chat. Let's go. He said, hey, TrueLife, we the people will take the corruption out of government. First of all, please donate if all you can do. Let's go, Joel, if Trump will get us back on track. I love it. I love it. Y'all show Mr. Norby some love in the chat. Let's go. Listen to this, guys, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff that's moving, but the government being funded, it can't be a big bill. It's got to be a short bill because Trump said that they're going to use budget reconciliation when day one moving forward to redo all the stupid spending that Biden has done. Listen to this.
Back, congressional leaders are negotiating a continuing resolution to avert a government shutdown ahead of Friday's deadline. Sources telling Fox News that lawmakers will likely get to see the text of that bill today. It was delayed yesterday over an impasse over agricultural provisions. Meanwhile, the House Freedom Caucus is throwing its weight behind a two-part reconciliation plan, which we've been reporting on for the last few weeks. They want a fully offset border security package moving first, meaning they want the border money, and then they want to see cuts, spending cuts to offset that money, followed by a larger bill covering taxes, energy spending, and more later on in the year. House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith and Utah Senator Mike Lee joined me yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures to discuss these reconciliation strategies. Watch.
I believe that the one package is the quickest and best approach to deliver these victories for the American people. There has not been two reconciliation bills that have been signed into law in the same year since 1997, when Newt Gingrich was Speaker and they had a much larger margin.
Well, look, we do plan to get to the extension of the tax cuts. And so the thought is we can do two in a year, but the first one involving securing additional funding for border security, possibly some defense spending, while simultaneously providing what are called pay-fors, offsets to any spending, will also be in the package.
Joining me now is former Speaker of the House, former Georgia Congressman and Fox News contributor, and the author of March to the Majority, Newt Gingrich, back with us. Speaker, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, it's good to be with you, and Jason was right. We passed two reconciliation bills in 1997. They can do that this year, but here's the point I would drive home. They need to have the Senate commitment to pass the tax bill by May 31st, to go to conference in June, and to sign the bill by July 4th. Reagan talked into having his tax cuts arrive late. We lost 26 seats in 1982. Similarly, President Trump was talked into taking up a bunch of other stuff, didn't get his tax bill until late. They lost 40 seats in 2018. Keeping the House is the biggest single challenge for the Trump administration, because a Republican House in the last 2 years versus a Democratic House is night and day in terms of the Trump revolution continuing its momentum. So if you work back from keeping the House, you have to have the tax cut bill and the deregulation bill signed into law by the 4th of July, so it's affecting the economy so well and so powerfully that people are really happy in 2026, and the Republicans gain seats, as Franklin Roosevelt did in 1934. Well, I'm perfectly happy to have a two-step if the Senate, let me be clear, Maria, if the Senate will commit that they're going to pass the tax bill in May and not have it drag out into the fall. If it drags into the fall, it will be a disaster for President Trump and a disaster for the House Republicans.
And that's why we're having this conversation. The fact is the whole idea to have two reconciliation packages is risky, right? I mean, you know, you're saying the second one has to be done by July. How realistic is that?
Well, it's totally realistic if they decide to do it. I mean, what it means is you write the two bills in parallel. The people writing the border bill are on judiciary. The people writing the tax bill are on Ways and Means. You can do two things. And we did this before. And when I was Speaker, we did it. But it means that the Senate can't just dawdle around, bring it up in October, because the Senate doesn't have skin in the game. The Senate's not likely to get lost next year. The House is in real danger of getting lost, and only a really vibrant, dynamic economy will convince people to give the Republicans another chance at power. So I would say that Speaker Johnson and the President have to look Senator Thune in the eye, and frankly, probably have to go to the Senate lunch and look at every Republican senator and say, okay, are you willing to commit that you will get this tax bill done by May 31st. If so, we can go with a two-part strategy. If you're not willing to commit that, I'd insist on all of them being in one bill and moving it. I mean, I think Jason Smith, the chairman of Ways and Means, has a very good argument. Now, I can be flexible, having been speaker and having watched all the different sides. I'm flexible if the Senate will make a commitment and if the president will stay focused on mobilizing the grassroots. That's how Reagan won, is he aroused the grassroots.
What about a gigantic package? Is it too unrealistic to think about a big package which has all of this in it and to get passed in the first 100 days by April 30th? Or is that just unrealistic, Speaker?
Well, I mean, look, I'm told two very contradictory things. I've had people in the Senate tell me that Senate Finance has been working on this bill for a year. Certainly, Jason Smith and the Ways and Means Committee in the House have worked on it for a year. So at one level, you'd think, lock them in a room on January 3rd and say, don't come out till you guys agree on a bill, and maybe have them write it together. So you're basically getting the same bill in both bodies, modified, of course, by what it takes to get them through. You could imagine doing that. I think what's happened, though, is that the Trump team, I'm not sure about the president, but the Trump team is convinced that they can get a very early win that'll be a big morale booster on the border, that's easy to write, it's not that complicated. The tax bill will inevitably, if it's going to be as big as Trump wants, it's inevitably going to be complicated. They got a brand new Secretary of the Treasury. They're going to get a brand new group of people in the various jobs at Treasury. They're all going to want to have their pinky in writing this thing. So it gets to be a muddle for a little while. Again, having driven this before, and in the 4 years I was Speaker, we drove a lot of stuff. You have to set deadlines. You have to hold people accountable. You can't let them go home on the weekends if they're not getting their job done. But if they will commit to get it all out of the Senate by May 31st, to get it through conference in June, get it signed by July 4th, I'm perfectly happy with a two-track plan. But boy, I would insist on a one-track plan if you can't get the Senate to commit to that.
I mean, Newt, have you spoken with them to give them this context? It's really important, everything you're saying this morning.
Yeah, well, I've talked to various people, but look, I'm just an advisor. I used to be Speaker. I'm not Speaker, and I have to tell you, I have the greatest admiration for Mike Johnson. I couldn't do his job. Yeah. I mean, he has the patience of Job, and he has a one-vote margin. So you have to pay careful attention. Now, the other part of this, Maria, is if you go back and look at Reagan, when they passed the bill with 49 Democratic votes, Tip O'Neill said we had an avalanche of phone calls because Reagan went on national TV and aroused the Reagan base. If the Trump team will arouse all the different grassroots groups that helped elect him, and all of them pile on to pass the tax bill, I am confident you'll have a bunch of Democrats vote yes, because they won't be able to take the heat back home.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they don't have the votes on the border, which forces them to do reconciliation even on the border. I mean, that's one of the issues. So I don't know who's going to support any of this on the Democrat side. You have a new op-ed out on FoxNews.com. You write this: a reconciliation bill that cuts taxes and reforms regulations to create jobs with 3 or 4 months of grassroots communications, education, and organization could lead to a substantial number of Democrats deciding they have to support the bill or face certain defeat. You also argue that the potential is here for a positive bipartisanship that reforms the establishment and creates a much more dynamic, safer, and more prosperous America. But, I mean, Newt, I don't know if the Democrats recognize that already. Maybe they need time to see that. I don't know.
No, yeah, that's why you need 3 or 4 months of grassroots activism. Right. But take the president's proposal to release to have no tax on tips. Look at Nevada, a state which has a huge population that works for tips. Now, you should be able to organize Nevadans in favor of a tax cut that eliminates taxes on tips, and they should be able to bring enough pressure on the Nevada Democrats that it becomes a matter of survival.
Yeah.
I mean, Reagan got 49 votes for the tax cut from the Democrats. We got, amazingly, on welfare reform, which was the most conservative social reform in your lifetime, we got 101 Democrats yes and 101 no, because the grassroots were so aroused that they just, unless you were a hard left Democrat in a very safe seat, you couldn't vote no. Now, 101 to 101. So my goal would be to probably target 60 Democratic seats and the 30 weakest Republican seats, make sure that the grassroots in those 90 seats were totally organized. And that takes a couple months. But that should happen now. They shouldn't wait until later. They can start organizing the grassroots. They can figure out the key parts that are clearly going to be in the bill, the things that people really want, and they can start marketing and educating right now and organizing. I mean, imagine that you had tip workers of America in favor of the Trump tax cut. How big a grassroots organization could that be?
Yeah.
Guys, I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff that's about to happen this week. Trump didn't just come out and say these huge statements today for nothing, but they're really going to be targeting a lot of the wasteful cost. So in this chart, remember, I want to bring the receipts, everybody. I want you to see the actual data. This is from 2022 because remember, it takes time to actually get the information once time has passed. So the financial impact of illegal immigration, look at this. In 2022, it was 73 billion from the state and local departments. When it comes to education, 6 billion from the federal. The federal, 25 billion for law enforcement. Almost 22 billion from local. Medical, almost 19 billion from the state and local, and 23 billion from the federal. And when it comes to welfare, this is a big one, almost 12 billion from the federal and 2 billion from local. These are taxpayer dollars that are going to illegal aliens who have not paid into the system, are not registered in the system. We don't know if they're even paying taxes all, because again, too, to get a job the right way, you have to have a social security number. You have to be a legal U.S. citizen. So when it comes to the amount of money that's spent, that is taxpayer dollars, but is spent on illegal aliens, this is what people are fed up with. Thank you so much, Lynn Defoe, for the super chat. Let's go. Said January 20th, can't get here fast enough. Thanks, Joel, for all you do. Bringing the truth and working hard to all that for us. Thank you from all of us and the Defoe family. Merry Christmas. Let's go. Love you, Defoe family. Y'all show Lynn some love in the chat. On top of that, guys, Biden is not stopping. Look at this. This happened today. President Biden has just signed a work-from-home deal for over 42,000 federal workers, which would prevent Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy from ordering them back to the office full-time. This happened today, literally this morning. We are in a mini civil war of what Biden is trying to do versus what Trump is trying to do and trying to get us back in track. But this is the thing. Trump has the mandate from the American people to come in and fix house. I also want to show you this as well. Look at the amount of pardons that has happened. Joe Biden, over 8,000. Donald Trump, 237 right here. Barack Obama, 1,927. But what does this show you guys? Joe Biden's trying to cover up something else. And while he's trying to cover up his tracks, we have Trump, who just made a deal, guys, where somebody is going to come in and literally put $100 billion investment, bringing over 100,000 jobs into the United States. This is beautiful. Check this out.
It's a perfect time to bring in our favorite economist, Stephen Moore. Steve, sounds to me like Biden's already trying to take credit for any economic progress in Trump's next term. He's trying to grab credit for what Trump's going to do in the future. What say you?
Well, Stuart, I just can't stop smiling because this is an amazing story. $100 billion of new investment in the United States. I think you said 100,000 jobs.
Yep.
Oh, my God, we've been waiting for this for a long time, haven't we? And in fact, under Biden, we've seen a lot of disinvestment in the United States and factories and businesses moving out. They're moving back in right now. And Trump isn't even president yet. That's the most amazing thing. You know, he doesn't actually take office. He doesn't move into the Oval Office for another month. But doesn't it seem like, Stuart, he's almost like the acting president right now in terms of the way he's conducting himself and the way all the foreign leaders are coming to meet with him. So it's exciting. And by the way, you guys put it very well. This didn't happen by accident. It's the lower energy costs. It's the lower tax rates. It's the deregulation of the economy. All of these things paint a very rosy scenario. But no, the economy today is not good. I mean, as you said, the average inflation of goods and services is up 21% since Biden came into office, and incomes are only up by about 18%. So no, the average family does not feel like they're better off than they were 4 years ago, and that's what the election was all about.
It certainly was. In your new article, you're saying that Trump is igniting a worldwide revolt against the elites. Sounds good to me. Tell me more.
Yeah, no, it is happening all over. And by the way, you know, Britain, I think, will be one of the first dominoes to fall. You've got an incompetent Labour government there. The Conservative Party screwed up. I think people around the world, in Britain, in Europe, in many of the South American countries and Asian countries, you saw what happened in Korea where they ousted their prime minister. You're seeing it in France. You're seeing it all over the world. And, you know, Trump isn't just popular here in the United States. Everybody in the world is looking at what's happening in America with this kind of populist power to the people movement. And people are saying, hey, we want that here in our country. So, yes, I'm predicting within the next 18 months, you're going to see major governments topple, bringing in populist Trumpian candidates. And I think it's a great thing because it'll bring prosperity to the whole world.
Can we get a quick comment on this idea that we start a national reserve using crypto, using Bitcoin, on day one of the Trump administration? As an economist, what do you think to that?
Well, look, I do believe in the dollar. The dollar is the world reserve currency. And so, you know, I don't think the dollar is ever going to be replaced in that regard. But I do think it's a healthy thing to have this kind of competition from Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And by the way, related to this, I want to just put a pitch in for something my friend Judy Shelton has been talking about. I think you've had her on your show many times. She's talking about a gold-backed Treasury security. And I love that idea. I think that's another thing Trump should do on day one. Make the dollar as good as gold by having a gold-backed Treasury security. What do you think?
Sounds like we're going back to the future. That's what it sounds like.
Guys, y'all know that. That's a big one. There's a lot of things happening, the investments of what's happening with the United States. The dollar is not backed by anything besides the name of the United States. That's it. We got away from the gold standard. I think it was in the 70s. And when they talk about crypto, they talk about moving to Bitcoin. A lot of things I feel like are about to change in the next, 5 to 10 years. But again, too, it's about moving forward and moving into the future. That's what Trump is about to do. I wanted to show this for those that haven't seen this yet, that are watching, that Trump says the Biden border wall sale is almost a criminal act, and they will be seeking a restraining order. And that also, too, this is as big as it ever could be, that Trump has vowed to release all documents pertaining to the Jeffrey Epstein, JFK, RFK, MLK, and September 11th files. Right now, Bill Gates is lobbying really, really big time in Washington, D.C. to not release the Epstein files. Why? Because, guys, if he's doing that, there's something corrupt there. But what a lot of them are really hating right now, there's a lot of people, a lot of Democrats that are really hating, is that Trump has so much momentum. I love showing you things from CNN that just are factual to show where Trump is at. And so many people support his agenda, they support his movement, and they want to put America first. Check this out.
It's Donald Trump's party, and his GOP opponents can cry if they want to borrow some words from Leslie Gore. Look, GOP voted to impeach or convict Trump. You go back to January, February 2021, it was 17 Republicans. They're adios amigos, goodbye, see you later for the most part. Now, just 5 of them remain in Congress, just 2 in the House, 3 in the Senate. The bottom line is this.
Guys, I hate to interrupt, but think about that. In 2021, there were 17 GOP people that voted to impeach Trump in the House. Only 5 of those same people remain. And this is the same thing, too, that Elon Musk said, if there's anybody, we're going to keep a list. If there's anybody that opposes Trump's agenda, I will use my personal money, Elon Musk said, to primary them out, to replace them. And remember, Elon Musk just got a big pay boost. This dude's literally worth over $420 billion right now.
Trump had a big control over the Republican Party before, but now it is even stronger. There are very few folks who dislike Donald Trump on the Republican side who are still in the United States Congress. He should be able to ram through legislation, at least on the ones in which he just needs Republican votes.
And we're seeing the pressure campaign for his cabinet picks right now on the Hill. There were some anti-Trump sentiments going on among GOP voters during his first term. What does it look like now for his second?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the same basic thing that we see in the United States and the United States House. All right,
this
Republicans
is huge.
On the Trump transition. You go back to January 2017, it was 80% approved. Now, that's not bad. But, oh, my goodness gracious, look at where we are now. It's 96%. I mean, you can't get any more universal, basically, than 96%. Those that disapprove, look, it was 10% back in January 2017. Now it's down to, get this, it's down to just 4%. It's down to just 4%. So, look, there are no GOP opponents in the United States Congress. There are very few among Republican voters. This is Trump's party. Mitt Romney, 100% correct on that. Folks like Romney just really don't exist in the GOP electorate or in Congress anymore.
So he makes this statement that I think a lot of people thought, yeah. Sort of stating the obvious. What about 2028? Is there any sign that that's going to change?
Yeah, look, if you're a GOP opponent of Donald Trump, maybe you hope the future is somehow brighter for you. Not right now. Look, it's still very, very early, but look, the top chances to be the 2028 GOP nominee based upon the polls and the betting markets, Vance, Trump Jr., Ramaswamy. Look, it's still very early, but this looks like...
Guys, let me know in the chat, because they're already betting on who's going to be the next 2028 presidential nominee, because Trump can't run again. Is it going to be Vance, Trump Jr., or Ramaswamy? Guys, I didn't even know Trump Jr. was in the dang mix of it. But this is huge. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Which one do you think?
Trump's party for now, and it looks like it will be for the foreseeable future.
And Romney said he believed it would be Vance, which would be the obvious.
Would be the obvious, and he is number one. Right on here, he's number one.
All right, those betting markets, you see them every day walking down the street in New York. They just have them up on billboards and they pop up. It's, don't spend your money that way. That's all I'm saying.
I'm spending it on gifts for you.
Thank you. John, this is to you.
Guys, this is huge. And I'm telling you, I want to show you something else too that's just as big happening. Trump is not playing around when it comes to these illegal aliens. Listen to this statement by him on what's going to happen if people don't cooperate.
In terms of your mass deportation plans, have you had any preliminary discussions with countries like Venezuela, from where the Tren de Aragua gang is now popping up?
They'll take them back.
They're going to take them back?
They're all taking them back, yep. And if they don't, they'll be met very harshly economically. Okay, they'll all take them back. You know, Venezuela and other countries were not behaving very well with us during my administration, and within 24 hours, they were behaving very well. They'll all take them back.
Guys, look at the confidence that he says that with. Today, you had Governor Youngkin who came out because he's really working with the Trump administration on what needs to be done to make sure that if you do not cooperate with Trump's mass deportation, federal funding will be pulled from your state, especially the sanctuary city states. Check this out.
Well, let me begin. It's great to see that we're about to have a border czar who's actually going to do the job of being a border czar. And last week, I introduced strong legislation through our budget process that will, in fact, hold localities accountable to make sure that when there is an ICE detainer and they have an illegal immigrant who's committed a crime in custody, that they cooperate with ICE. And we have seen too many instances when we have someone who has committed a crime, who's in custody, and then they are released when there's a detainer in place to contravene the authority of ICE, and then that person goes on and commits another crime. And in fact, just recently, in February, in the city of Richmond, we had a person who was convicted of sexual assault of a minor. The person was released while there was an ICE detainer outstanding, and then ICE had to enable a hot pursuit in order to retain this person in custody that puts more people in danger. We had a young woman just recently in Fairfax County who was sexually assaulted, raped by someone who had 29 encounters with law enforcement and had an outstanding ICE detainer, and Fairfax County sheriffs decided not to cooperate with ICE. This has to stop. And so if you don't cooperate with ICE when there's a detainer in place, I'm going to go to work and take your funding away in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We are not a sanctuary state. We will no longer allow this to happen, and we're going to work together to make sure that we keep Virginians safe. Every state's become a border state, and I'm going to work to make sure that Virginia has the laws in place to cooperate with ICE.
It's a big job. I don't know.
Guys, again, did you hear that? This lady, unfortunately, got raped because this illegal immigrant who had 29 encounters with ICE and was supposed to be detained but wasn't. That should have never happened. That woman's life will never be the same because our stupid administration couldn't do their dang job to make sure that we keep people that shouldn't be on the streets off the streets. It literally breaks my heart, guys. This is people's family members. This is people's moms or wives or daughters. Like, this is why I'm so happy we're getting a new administration. But I wanted to show you this one last thing, guys. There's a reason why there's a lot of corruption. There's some names on here, guys, that really bother me. But during the COVID pandemic, we can't account for like hundreds of billions of dollars. We can't. The reason why, we had people that were forced to quit their job, forced to stay home, didn't get a paycheck by the administration because of all the government shutdowns. And we had people like Jay-Z, who has a net worth of $2.5 billion, that took $2.4 million from the federal government. Reese Witherspoon, who's worth $440 million, took out $350,000 from the federal government. Kanye West, $400 million net worth, took $2.5 million from the federal government. Khloe Kardashian, Tom Brady, all these people that had just gobs and gobs of money and took advantage of the system when they didn't have to, and it was all paid for by the U.S. taxpayers. We gave rich people this money because there's no accountability with money in the United States. Can you believe this? That's a lot of these loans are forgiven. They're not even paid back. All paid for by the U.S. taxpayers, guys. And it breaks my heart because I know people that suffered through the COVID pandemic and they didn't have enough money, but yet the administration just continued to give out. And that's why there's so much corruption, and that's why we got a clean house. Why do you think Trump said, I'm not taking a paycheck? I don't need to take a paycheck from the government. The president of the United States gets paid about $450,000 a year. And that's some money. And he said, I don't need it. Why? Because he's a billionaire. He doesn't need the money. And yet we have politicians who become career politicians like Nancy Pelosi and all of them who continue to live off the American taxpayers' dime and screw over regular Americans, and all of it needs to stop. Summerman, thank you so much for the super chat. Said the fun is just getting started. Get ready for it, everyone. It's going to be amazing. I 100% agree. Y'all show Summerman some love in the chat. Guys, if you're not subscribed, why not? Please hit that subscribe button so I can serve you every day with the top news. And if you haven't hit the thumbs up like button, guys, please do so. Let's get to 1,000 likes before the video ends. We got over 1,700 people watching right now. Let's do it, guys. Please hit the like button if you don't mind. And thank you to all of our members of the channel. If you're not a member and you want to be, the link is in the description. Guys, we're so grateful with our members. With our members' money and the super chats, we do a live online donation to charity once a month. We're going to be doing it in less than a week. And we give a huge donation to charity. We've given to Isaiah 117 House. Wounded Warriors, Samaritan's Purse. And this month, we're going to be doing a big charity to A Christmas for Christ. Guys, I'm telling you, I just love this community. I want to serve you every day. I want to give some shout outs to Mr. Tracy J. Norby, Linda Foe, Summerman, for the super chats. Y'all showed them some love in the chat, everybody. Guys, we couldn't do this without you. We are here for you. I hope you got value out of this show. We do 2 shows Monday through Friday, and we do 1 show on Saturday and 1 show on Sunday. We are here to bring you the top news. So if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.